Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, joined by Peter Treloar, who I've known for years, actually. I think we met about 12 years ago on a past project that we're just talking about off air. But I want to talk about Peter's journey over the space. So he's been involved in technology and businesses for quite a while now. Peter is now CEO and co-founder of Taly, which is all in the space of recruitment and assisting teams in personality profiling and how that might assist bringing AI and different technology stacks to that, to bring it up to what is now 21st century type technology rather than the old get a PDF report and what do you do with it. I think that's probably some of the challenges people might have in personality profiling. But Peter, thank you for joining us and thanks for coming on and sharing your journey today.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here and good to see you. We have known each other for 10 or 12 years through random contacts in the past, which I think is how startups and the founder journey works, isn't it? It's just the random people you meet along the way.
Just random connections along the way. And then you never know what that brings in the end and how you might collaborate over the journey, but it's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Peter, tell the audience a little bit about who you are. So your background, what your experience is it's non-technical, and that's as a non-technical founder, that's someone we want to bring on and talk about the journey and the challenges and also what the benefits are to being non-technical. Tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, sure. Well, so my background was actually in, I was a researcher for a really long time. So doing market research and consumer behavior and understanding the way people behave and why they think the way they think and why they act the way they act. So I was doing a lot of work for about 10 years in research, with really big brands like Foster's and Australia Post and Reflex and, helping to sell more consumer products. And then about 10, 12 years ago, probably around the time that we first met, decided to sort of branch out on my own and do my own work, and moved from working in research and trying to understand how to solve problems to working out how to solve my own problems. So it started to become that kind of thing where, you sort of see a problem when you're working with clients, and I think you've done this as well, and you kind of go, well, we could just do that ourselves. Like, why would we help someone else do it? Why don't we just have a go? And I think my mindset's always ridiculously optimistic and happy to take risks. And so I was like, fuck it, let's just see what happens. So we just sort of jumped in and did it.
There's a cool advantages to that, right? So being in market research, a lot of people get a little bit stuck on how to validate product and concepts with people.
Yeah.
I'll probably dig in a bit about that on the episode because I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle that a lot of people probably don't get right.
Yeah.
So I'd love to share some of your experience in that space for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. I was going to say that that sort of non-technical founder journey, I think has been boosted because my training for such a long time was about understanding people and why they behave the way that they behave. And so I think when I was thinking about starting to build out products over the last decade, it was really not sort of thinking about it from a technical perspective or thinking about it from a, can we make $1 billion kind of perspective? Obviously, that's always the idea in the background, but it wasn't sort of the main thing. It was really, is this a problem? Do people want it to be solved? And what kind of solution would they be looking for? And sort of bringing that consumer lens and also like a pragmatic consumer lens. So, a lot of founders sort of get caught up in what they're doing and don't sort of see the wood for the trees. They'll sort of think like, we've got this idea, everyone's going to buy it, it's going to scale, it's going to be really easy. But I guess me as a researcher, going to people's homes, seeing how they live, talking to them about their lives, understanding that, they make, the role of your app or your product has very little role in the everyday person's life. And so we need to to get that perspective and just really see like, are we solving a problem? Will people pay for it? And realizing like the role that products play for people. So I think just sort of having that natural consumer lens over everything helped to sort of bring a different perspective for sure along the founder process.
It definitely adds some huge value in terms of how you might approach a conversation, because sometimes as a founder we can sort of get lost in just showcasing what we're doing to the world.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really get us what we need to understand what might a person actually pay for, what are their real challenges. And I think people get stuck in that real roundabout for quite a while in some cases. That can be a bit of a challenge for a lot of founders out there.
Yeah, obviously. And then also, people want to be nice to you when you're starting to build out a new product. So, you go and ask your mum whether she thinks it's a good idea and then she'll say yes, or ask your mates or talk to someone in the pub. And everyone's always supportive because they want to see people give something a go. But then when you get out into reality and, you ask people accurate questions and do things with like the right kind of methodology, you realize it's maybe not going to be as exciting. And I've heard lots of stories about people launching products, investing their own money or their parents' money or their friends' money, based on pretty dubious insights, and it just hasn't worked out so well. And I think that's a real big gap. And I think some people are starting to try to address that now. I think getting access to people, getting access to insights and information is really hard and really expensive, and not a lot of startups can afford that. So it's sort of hard to get the balance right. But I think just bringing that consumer lens or the customer lens and thinking about the problem that you're solving in everything that you're doing, like, does anyone care about this? Is it going to change anyone's behavior all of the time, rather than sort of thinking about the tech and being excited about that as its own thing, makes a big difference.
Yeah, there's obviously an episode in itself to talk about on there, but we'll talk about your journey today. Maybe get back to talk just about
got off to research for a while.
Entirety. No, but I think there's plenty in that, and then there's added a lot of value to the community. But I feel like today I want to talk about where you started and how the first time you jumped out and went into your own thing. What did that look like? What did that feel like? How did you make that step? So what was the first thing that gave you that confidence to make that step? Because a lot of people get stuck in that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think, the first business I had wasn't a tech business at all. It was a venue in South Bank. It was a place called The Meadow. It was really cool. It was like a meeting area. It was set up for market research, but also for workshops and events and that kind of thing. I think you might have
I think I met you in The Meadow. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I met you in The Meadow. That sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's poetic.
So that was my first experience. And I learned a lot doing that, just about how to run a business, how to manage the books, how to manage staff, how to, all of the just nuts and bolts of running a business. And I think that process taught me just basic things around finance, profit, cash flow, the things that I think we like sometimes, particularly in tech businesses, you may not be as focused on because you're not really thinking about it as a business. You're thinking about it as a product. So I learned a lot doing that, and also a lot about the hard work. Like, knowing that if something needs to be done, you're doing it. If you're opening, the venue was opening and we were there the night before, we were there weeks before, 24 hours a day, painting walls, chipping paint off things, doing, whatever needed to be done had to get done. And sort of learning that, you've just got to get in and the buck stops with you kind of feeling and just feeling that pain, but knowing that at the end of it, you're going to have a product and something that you're really proud of. That was a really, brutal lesson. There was not a lot of sleep and there was a lot of stress. But
it's the reality, right? We are up late nights and then you have your moments. Even when you get into a nice flow in business, you get thrown a curveball in certain instances, and then you're back to the grind, the battle, and trying to solve for that. And then you might settle down a bit, and then another curveball comes. That's the reality of business. I just don't see that changing, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it doesn't change. And no matter what kind of founder I'm talking to, or, we work with a lot of startups and scale ups and large businesses as well now. Everyone's got the same thing. Like, it doesn't get better. It's the journey that you're going on, and you just got to love it, or go find something else to do.
There's always a different challenge thrown at you. And it's just, if they're getting better, that's a positive. So you want bigger and better challenges. That's the reality of what it's going to be. It's never going to be smooth sailing for 10 years. I don't think any business has that.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think the other thing that I learned through that journey was also that the risks aren't nearly as big as you think that they are. I realized pretty quickly that if this didn't work, maybe we lost a little bit of money, but not life-changing money. And, we weren't going to end up on the streets, and you just go and get a job. Like, there's a lot of people who are kind of worried about the risks associated to starting their own business, or building their own product. And I think you have to do it sensibly. You have to, going back to what we were talking about earlier, be really clear that there's a problem that needs to be solved and someone wants to pay for it. But then you just jump in, and if it doesn't work out, look at yourself coldly and realistically. And if things aren't going well, try and understand why. But the worst case scenario will be you just go and do something different, or go and get a job, or go and find something else to do. You're not going to end up in the gutter if the business doesn't work out, and no one's going to laugh at you either and tell you you're an idiot for trying. So I think that just realizing that it was okay to take a risk, to try things, you could do multiple things at once, you could find a way to make it work that worked for you. I think sort of learning those things pretty quickly was really important. And that's when we got on to building our first kind of tech startup. Tech, it's a new word. It's for tech startups.
Yeah, special tech startup.
Special
Yes.
tech, that's right. And that was a business called Taly. So that was a software platform that connected researchers, so people doing consumer research or market research, with users to take part in the research. And that was a really interesting ride because we sort of started that in about 2016 or so. We ran it for a few years. We had this idea as non-tech founders that you would just build the product. And I think we even talked to you about this when we first started designing it. We thought we'd build the product, we'd launch it, and it would just run itself. Like we just thought that's how technology works.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how most people think, but the reality is that's not going to happen.
No, you need teams, you need constant maintenance, you need to continually be getting
Constant
feedback and
iteration,
evolving. And
feedback and evolving. That's the
yeah.
reality of tech.
So we were sure we were going to be making money in our sleep. We knew we were solving a problem that the industry wanted to be solved, and we thought we'd just build this thing. It'd cost, I don't know, 50 grand, off it would go, and we'd still do our day jobs, and everything would be easy. And we learned pretty quickly that wasn't true. And just like I think once you start to get into it and you talk to people as well, and you realize that big companies like Seek or Airbnb or giant tech companies have thousands and thousands of people working for them, and they're constantly evolving their product. And so just that realization that nothing is ever finished was a really interesting journey. But then, you pretty quickly get into the hang of it. You start to learn all of the lingo about different stacks and different languages and different, how to like different types of developers, and sort of went on to that journey pretty quickly. So that was a business that we ran for a few years. During COVID, it started to take off because it was a digital product for an old analog market. And ended up
good timing at that, coming into that sort of world. A lot of digital products did quite well in that space when we were sort of stuck. We couldn't do the analog, the face-to-face piece.
Yeah, that's right. So the pandemic was good for us from that perspective. And so we started to grow, and then it ended up getting acquired by a US firm in 2021 and sold the business. And then I worked for the US firm for about 10 months, and then got out and got back into Taly, which is what I'm working on now.
So in terms of, let's unpack that a little bit. What was it like building a tech product, being non-technical? What was that approach? So what did you learn through that piece? How did you bring on technical people to that process? Because that's a lot of area that people get stuck. They either get a technical co-founder, they just go on Upwork and outsource the thing. What was the methodology that you approached there?
I guess a lot of trial and error was probably the answer. We originally sort of outsourced a lot of the build, and then, and as I was saying, we thought we could sort of build it and just roll it out. And then learned that we kind of really needed to stay close to the product. And I think, again, as that sort of researcher mentality, my co-founder Bianca was also a researcher. We were really close to what the customer was saying, and we needed to be able to translate that really easily into what the product was doing. And to have it outsourced or to be relying on consultants and not having that kind of control, you don't want to go and rush off and build things all of the time, but you do need to be able to shape and evolve the product based on what you're hearing from your customers. And so we learned pretty quickly that outsourcing could solve some problems. So when we're talking about DevOps or server side of things, or little discrete projects that you could ship off to people really neatly, then that worked quite well. And was also a really great way to manage budget, because you could do it quite cheaply in some circumstances. But when it came to your core product, we learned, one of the core things we learned was you need to bring it in-house. You need to build a team of people who are passionate about what you're doing. We learned as well that developers are an interesting group of people, and have sort of...
Can be, yeah. They
can be, yeah. So really, and I guess my space, all the work that I do now is in personality. So understanding that diverse teams lead to great outcomes. We all approach things differently. We have different personalities, but even I found it really hard to work with, coming from consulting, most of my work was in branding and advertising, and, a really particular type of character, to working with developers and engineers was really quite different. And obviously there's lots of different types of developers and engineers, but just understanding like what the motivations were, what got people excited, working hours, goals are different. The goal isn't necessarily about, the customer outcome, but it might be about the deliverable and the quality of the code, or just understanding that you're working with different mindsets and different types of behaviors was a really steep learning curve as well. And we work with lots of different people. I guess the thing that I learned really quickly, and I think this is something that all founders kind of need to know, is that the industry is really generous, and people are really generous with their time. And there are meetups, there are groups of people you can talk to, there are mentors you can connect with, there are people who are just happy to have a chat because they're just excited. Like, this is a really great community that we have locally, and people are happy just to sit down. Even people, we had a couple of mentors who were founders of businesses that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they'd catch up for coffee, and we're like, don't you have something better to do with your time?
I know there are people out there. Yeah, so we've got some business mentors that have exited some significant businesses.
Yeah.
And they're just happy to share journey. And you learn so much from these people because they've just been in the thick of it, grown big businesses, and they can give you really good insights that can change your thinking, perception, and how you operate too. So they're really good people to be around.
Yes.
And just network and share the bad to get. I find that when you share when crap's going on, people introduce you to all these people that might be able to support you. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So ask for help.
I think that's a really good point. I think that vulnerability side of it, just to say, because when I first started to talking to a few mentors, like, I kind of felt like I needed to put on a good front, and then I realized, like, if you just tell them the truth, they don't care. Like, they've been there before. They've felt it before. They're just like, they just want to help you.
Every one of them has been through the roller coaster as well. So, and then on that side, COVID had a great period. I think we overinvested during COVID because we were doing well, and then we fell off a perch, and it's like, whoa, what do we do now? We have to cut back, we have to change model, and it became very challenging for 12 months. And I started reaching out to a good network, which is, I'll give them a plug. They're called Uncommon Sense Events. A group called Matt Murray. I don't know if you've ever met this guy. Yeah. Interesting character, very big character. And Ronan, and Ronan. So those two guys, and then they introduced me a couple of people in the network, and they opened up a few different people, and all of a sudden we've got a mentor that's had all the experiences come in and just a good level set. And they said, okay, let's focus on one thing, not trying to solve all the problems at once, and just keep things a bit easier. So sharing those vulnerabilities is important in business. It's never going to be perfect. If we pretend it is, you're just going to get hit in the face. That's what I've learned over the period.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and the tricky thing though is that those, like, they will also be brutal to you in every moment. Like, their job isn't to be your mate. Their job is to be honest. And sometimes you go with an idea, and they're like, yeah, it's not going to work because of this. And like, oh, come on, can you just give me like one? Can I just want a hug today. I just want a hug and a martini or something. Like, just give me a break.
It's a fair point. If you're expecting a hug from that group of people, you're not going to get one.
They're there to do business. So it's interesting. So I think, I guess the tech side of things was obviously a steep learning curve, but I think once you can get to a point where you've sort of got that foundational knowledge and you got good people around you, and you try a few different things and learn what works and what doesn't work. And everyone's always going to make some mistakes. Coming back into it the second time around now, so after exiting Tell Me and getting back into Taly again.
How are you approaching it now? Because that would be from all the learning. So what have you done?
Yeah, it's so much easier. It really is. Obviously it's still a startup. Taly was an oldish business that we sort of put on ice for a few years and got back up and running again at the start of 2023. And you kind of knew what the playbook was. Like, you already had a network of people to talk to, and you already had some developers that could give you advice, and you knew what to outsource and what to run internally. And you sort of knew the other thing that we made mistakes with Tell Me, the previous business, was we just kept building stuff. Like, we'd add features for clients, we'd sort of change things, we'd tweak things. We're like, they're going to do this thing, they've asked for this kind of download, whatever it might be. And you would just do it because you had a resource. So you sort of had this, you felt really lucky that you had resources who could just do things when you asked them to, in a nice way, like in a friendly way, but they were there. So if a client asked for something, you would try to serve that client without really thinking like, are other clients going to use it? Are we going to make money out of it? Is it worth spending time on? But, the opportunity cost of doing that versus other things. And so now I think what we're really focused on is just the foundational product, and anything that's exciting around it, or maybe even a new idea, we're just faking it. We're not faking it. Like, it's obviously a solid product, but we're not going to like embed everything into the core of the product right away, because we need to understand what's going to work and what's not going to work. And over the last 18 months, from where we were back in March or April last year to now, the product's totally different. Our approach to market's really different. I've had hundreds of conversations with HR leaders, and because we're in the personality profiling space, so a lot of HR, so in talent recruitment, leadership development, organizational development, that kind of space. I've had hundreds of conversations with people in that area now, and I've just learned so much about what are the current trends, what our customers want to buy, what do they want to spend money on. And so if we'd sort of started building that into the product 12 months ago, we just would have wasted all of our time. So
I think you mentioned something really important for people to think about. There's two continuous iterations going on in a technology business. There's the product, and then there's the whole business itself. There's the model, there's the market, there's who we're selling to. There's all this stuff going on, and we have to keep iterating them together. Because I feel like some people get stuck on, let's just iterate product and evolve that. But the reality is maybe your market is not that person. You're selling to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the messaging. There's a lot of pieces that are moving. Talk about that a little bit in terms of how you're iterating both at the same time, because effectively you've got a business model that might be changing, the way you're selling a product could be changing, and then who you're selling to could be changing too.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to describe it. We often talk about the plates spinning. Like you got to keep lots of different plates spinning and try to get them working at different speeds and together. But I think that you can't underestimate the bias that we have not to waste what we currently have. So once you've built something, like if 12 months ago we started heading down a path of building something, you want to hold on to it, and you're like, we're going to find a market, we're going to find a customer. You keep hitting customers over the head with this idea that you think was perfect, and they just keep saying, oh, that's interesting, but they won't give you any money for it, and they'll you'll have to go back and talk to them again. So you can't. If you go too far down one path, you get too attached to the time that you spent on that and the love that you've had for building that product. So it's sort of this weird dance that you have to do where you're building out ideas, testing ideas, thinking about where it might go in the future, because you sort of need to start thinking about the future state now, because if you start thinking about that at that time, you'll be way behind anyway. So you sort of need to have an idea about where you're going. But then also not invest too much into what you've got now. So it is sort of that really weird dynamic. I mean, I think just sort of being able to list it out and say, like, what are the fundamentals? Just, does the platform do what we promise it will do? Is it secure? Is there privacy built into it? Just those real fundamentals are things that you have to spend your money on. And then there may be little features that you can experiment with, or you can put a human behind it. So you might say, one of the things we're doing now is, so if we're recruiting you, we'll do your personality profile through recruitment. And then there's an AI tool that will spit out and say, based on you applying for this role, here's 5 questions you should ask in the next interview. So it just sort of gives you this little insight. So for a leader to know what to ask, it's really helpful. And then it goes,
supporting the leaders is very important.
Yeah, supporting the leaders. And then if the leader decides to hire you, you then get another little output that says, this is how you should be onboarded into the team based on your personality. So it's going to make sense for you. So just sort of trying to bring you as a human into the whole employee journey rather than a one size fits all. That's stuff that we've built. A little bit of it's in the platform. We built a lot of integrations into ChatGPT and some AI outputs that automate all those processes. There's even like an AI video of me that you might get, which is like, hey, Andrew, starting a new team. Here's some things you might want to think about it. And it's all scalable. But a lot of it still has a human in between it going, copy and paste this thing over here, publish this thing over there, do whatever. And
sometimes you need to do a bit of that, just because building some of that stuff is not worth it at the early stage, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then a guy that we used to work with always had this saying that if it got to the point where there's too many customers for us to be able to do that manually anymore, then that's a rich man's problem. Yeah, he would say that's a rich man's problem. You'll have money come in, you'll have revenue, you can just go and build it. And that's sort of what we're thinking about. So it's sort of like, what does the platform need to do? What do we need to fake for a while, but still with like rigor and technology around it? But then at the same time, we've got a future idea about what the AI is going to do over the top of the Taly platform. And so we're having meetings and conversations about that now, but knowing that should be 5% of our time. and that'll get us ready for where the future might go, because we're learning a lot and changing things, but the core product's got to stay where it's at.
Got it. On the back of that, I'll need to introduce you to someone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there could be good collaboration in terms of what they're doing and in your world.
Yeah.
So I'll do that after this chat. In terms of exit, dig on that a little bit, because you mentioned that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because a lot of people, their goal is to exit. Some people, their goal is to build a legacy business.
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind it? And then what was it like moving into an exited business? Because that's obviously can be a little bit sticky. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. It was awesome. It was really exciting. So we actually got a guy got involved a little bit early with Taly and put in a little bit of seed cash, and he got a LinkedIn message from these people over in America that we'd never heard of before, and we almost didn't talk to them. We were like, "Who are these guys? What's their like? We'd never heard of their company before. They're just going to try and steal our new idea, you know." And then after a while, we went, maybe we should just have a meeting with them. And it turned out that they're this huge company. They're really well known globally, just not in Australia. And we had a couple of meetings, and it progressed really quickly. And they just, after, we didn't know what their intention was, but after a couple of meetings, they just said, we don't tend to invest in businesses, we tend to acquire them. Are you open to that? And we were like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, let's have a chat. So, okay. And then it just moved pretty quickly from that point of view. We were looking at raising money at that time because we were ready to scale, and we were looking to go into the US. So it ended up being, the right place at the right time, and you've always got that trade-off. Do you want to grow it? Could it be worth more in the future? I've got a bit of a bird in the hand kind of mentality. If it's, if someone's offering you fair value today, and there's always other ideas you can play with in the future, then, make hay while the sun shines, because you never know what's going to happen. So
it can change quickly, can't it?
It can change very quickly. Yeah. So that was a really great experience. And then, 2022, we went to the States 4 times. We were working, trying to integrate the business into this huge beast that was the US business that bought us. And that was a real interesting experience. It wasn't easy.
No, it wouldn't have been. Yeah, it's challenging. Big businesses bringing in a little startup out of Oz would be a very big challenge, I would imagine.
Totally, yeah. So apart from just time zones, obviously, just the integration, change management, you sort of letting go of what you had built and handing it over to other people. But also sort of, your job is still to try to protect the dream of what it was and what you think you were trying to sell for customers, before it gets, like we were saying before, like once you've got something, that's what you want to hold on to. So the company that we were coming into obviously had a lot of things that they wanted to hold on to as well. And our product was quite different. So, just getting that balance right was a real challenge. But I was ready to, after about 12 months, ready to go back and do my own thing again. So I just jump back into Taly. Yeah.
Got it. Well, that's a different experience, and it just throws up what business anything can happen. When you walk into a business, anything can happen. You were looking to exit, but it just occurred. Sometimes things happen, things change, take you on different directions, and it's 100%. Just the reality, right? It's never a smooth sailing path, or never how you think it's going to play out.
Yeah.
It will change and evolve.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why, sorry to cut you off, but I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, just the networking, going out and talking to people. I was thinking about how I first got into my first product, and it was through someone who was mates with a photographer who introduced me to someone who was doing and it became this whole chain of maybe 20 people that then introduced me to the person who introduced us to the person who ended up buying our company. So it was like, if I just hadn't hung out with that guy that night and met that person, and where would we be today, and a whole different thing. So I think, the huge part of the journey is just talking to people, having conversations, being open to being wrong and being right, and getting those mentors. And, that's such a huge part of it.
Let's plant you in Taly for a bit.
Okay.
What's the vision? What's the goal? 3-5 years time, where are you driving this thing? Where would you like it to be? What's the plan?
Yeah, for sure. So the idea of Taly is pretty simple. So when we first built the business, it was playing in the world of personality profiling. So it was all about, can we build a really great personality profiling tool, and can we deliver it to businesses in a really simple and insightful way, so that anyone, you don't need to be accredited, you don't need it to be an org psych, anyone could grab one of these reports, read it, understand the person that they're looking at, and know what to do. And that sort of doesn't really exist, or didn't really exist in the market. So, really great science-based profiling tool, but really, really cost-effective, really simple, really easy to understand. Where we've got to sort of getting the business back up and running again last year, and then over the last 18 months, is we've realized that there's a huge need for leaders to see and understand their people better. There's a massive need for middle managers to empathize with the humans that they're leading to drive better engagement. But leaders do not have the mental or emotional capacity today to be able to do that. And I think people know that. I think everyone's sort of experiencing burnout. Everyone is kind of just done, just post-COVID. Everyone's a bit tired. But then they're also like getting told all the time, you need to coach better, you need to lead better, you need to give better feedback, and they're like, we know, we just don't have the time. Like if I'm going into a feedback session with you, I don't have time to sit down for half an hour beforehand and think about how the conversation is going to run, your personality, how I can empathize with you better. I've got a minute before that meeting, and that's it,
Yeah, you're just jumping straight into it after a back. So it's a bit difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what our vision for Taly is, and this is what we're doing with clients today, is how do we sort of accelerate that idea of really great personality profiling so I can understand you and how you behave and what motivates you, really insightful outcomes to give you what you need and to help leaders see you and understand you, but then using AI and tech to get those insights into the hands of leaders when and where they need it. So if you're like that example of me about to go into a feedback session with you, if I just get a Slack message from Taly saying, hey, you're about to go into a feedback session with Andrew, just remember he's kind of like this, so make sure you shape the conversation this way because he's going to hear that better. He's going to feel like you understand him. He's going to be more engaged in the outcome. And just keep it as simple as that. The leader may not even know Taly's his thing. They may never log into Taly. They may never read a report, but they just might get a couple of dot points and they're like, thank you, that's really helpful. Like that's all I needed to know today.
Sometimes a platform is not what people need. They need an insight or a piece of information. It's a very different take.
Yeah.
A lot of people go and build a platform, and the leaders got to log into this platform. They've got to look at this stuff, but sometimes they need point in time, understand the customer. It's a good little bit of market research there you've done. Clearly, well, who is the customer? Who's the leader?
Are you finding that as well? Like, I've heard it's a bit of a trend, but sort of unplatforming.
Yeah, it is, because we've got so many that we're involved in. It's how do we get people information they need point in time. So I think point in time learning's been a big thing, but point in time, what do I need now that's going to help me make better decisions, better conversations? Definitely going to do that introduction because there's some synergy in terms of the leadership side.
Yeah.
It's more from a cultural lens. So I think there's something that could come together quite well for you. So yes, it's a very interesting point because where people were busy, we've got 20 platforms that work in. If they're ready, we might have one or two or three core things. I feel like a lot of people are going down, what can we do with Teams, Slack? That's a really good point because we're in those things already rather than go and log into something else and then try and figure out how to use this thing and then what value am I getting from it? And then no one's logging in, so no one's getting the value. So how do we get to the user rather than the user come to us? I think it's a trend that we need to really stick onto because that will help us get more engagement and that's going to help us deliver the value rather than deliver tech. It's more of the value conversation.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to sum it up. I think that really makes a lot of sense. And particularly with enterprise clients, I think as well, if you're trying to sell new technology into enterprise clients, as soon as it's a platform, you've got procurement, you've got security, you've got IT. Obviously, you still have to go through all of those things anyway, but they also see like what happens when leaders forget their password. How do I train people in it? I have to roll out this whole program, and it becomes like a whole, like particularly for HR teams that we're selling to and talking to, they're just, they've got enough stuff to deal with. They don't like for them to have to onboard a new platform, and then also it's kind of new, so they don't know necessarily that it's going to work. It's going to work. Like obviously, if you're listening to this, it's totally going to work. But
so it's going to work,
and it does work. It does work with the clients we're working with now. But it's just you've got that. It's another hurdle to jump through. And if you don't have to worry about training and accreditation and blah blah, then it's just get rid of that friction.
Well, if anyone's been around personnel profiling and really dug into those, I've done that in the past, but you really don't have the. I think what you're saying is how do we take that with the experience of the person? So I've got different profiles I've used in the past. I understand how people think and how they operate. So I know this person's not the right person to do this. But that's all just in here from past report. And when I invested time in that, because as leaders, we might invest time in something, but then over time that dissipates and then we've got some memory of that. But I feel like if you can just be poignant on that, give information at a point in time again, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, and that's and so the other part that's really exciting about what we're doing is that AI can solve a lot of those problems. So if rather than sort of, you think about, like you're saying before about point in time learning, people used to learn, here's how you do feedback sessions. But what I should be really thinking about is here's how I should do a feedback session with you based on your personality at that point in time in your role, and also based on my personality, because my personality is going to bring bias into that feedback session as well. So everything can go from being just generic, like good quality training, but just still generic, to really hyper personalized outcomes. And that's when it gets really fun, because we know it just really lands. And the feeling that we want for leaders is, it feels great. Like I feel like I knew what I was doing. I feel confident in having this conversation. And for you as the employee, you should feel seen and understood. You should hear the messages. It all kind of makes sense to you. And everyone walks out of the conversation saying, that was great. That was a really good chat, And that's kind of the feeling that we want people to have at work.
And if people are more comfortable with their leaders, we have people more engaged in their workplace. So if we're 100%. Disconnected from our leaders, we're in all sorts of trouble. That's where we get churn of people and employees. There's a big value prop in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's the idea. So that's
the idea. Brilliant, man.
So we've got a couple of clients. We've got about 20 clients that we're working with now. So it's things are going really nicely, and we're sort of doing a few trials in Canada. And I guess in terms of that 3 to 5 year plan, the idea is really just to see, I think the thing that I learned from the previous businesses and, what I've learned over the last 10 years is you just got to prove it. You need the data and the proof points. So we want to show that it works, that it drives engagement, that managers feel more confident and get really good data about what we're doing. Because rather than sort of believing in our own product, going back to the research thing we were talking about right at the start, rather than believing in our own product, it's got to be, how can we prove that we did this thing, it got to this kind of outcome, and now we can do that at scale for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of companies. So that's kind of the pathway that we're on at the moment.
That's the goal. It's an exciting journey.
Yeah.
And that's where every founder starts, right? We've got a concept, we're trying to prove it, but you got a breadth of experience. It's the one thing that domain expertise is important. It's a piece. I want to get you on to just talk about market research, because I feel like you're going to have significant value in that space. So I'll get you on another episode whenever you got some time.
Yeah, for sure. Just
specifically to talk to that and how we might better position our products, how we might speak to potential customers around our solutions, because I think a lot of people get lost in how to ask questions, or they just show stuff and just expect it and then get a positive response, and then they feel like they're not selling anything. Why? So there's a lot of that happens in the space. So I think there could be some significant value there.
Yeah, well, you should talk to Bianca. You met Bianca. She was my co-founder and tell me she's an expert. She's actually talking at the Market Research Conference this week on exactly that. So you should maybe get her on to have a chat.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Oh, thank you, Peter. Thanks for coming on DevReady Podcast and sharing journey today, what the expectations are and what you're trying to drive for Taly and where that might go. So good luck with everything that's going on in that. I know it's an early journey, but there's a lot of exciting things coming. So that's great to hear, and good luck with everything. If anyone wants to learn about Taly or what you're doing in the space, where can they reach you?
Yeah, well, our website's just taly.com.au, or I'm peter@taly.com.au. So reach out. Happy to chat. Happy to give advice as well if people want to hear about my ups and downs of startup life over the last 10 years. Happy to chat anytime.
Brilliant, Peter. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew.